Again, welcome back for part two of the interview. We're going to focus on the next question, which is, could you elaborate on the ways in which you provide assistance to your clients and the impact it has on their pursuits?
Now, some of these things I've kind of touched on, but I'll just go through maybe a slightly different angle on it. How do I help entrepreneurs? And what is the transformational impact that it creates? My work is not for people seeking shortcuts. Everybody's
Okay.
looking for shortcuts.
Hmm.
Shortcuts have their place, okay?
Hmm.
Um, there are shortcut ways of doing things properly, which I will maybe mention. So I would say that what I do is not for people looking for shortcuts or gimmicks or motivational sound bites. It's for entrepreneurs who understand that sustainable success requires more than a quick fix. It demands clarity and commitment and a willingness to do the deep work. I'm not saying that you have to spend your life doing it or anything like that, because there are some very clever ways of doing things. But the reason this is important is that anything built on shaky ground is not just fragile, it's actually dangerous, dangerous to your own well-being and everything else. So this isn't about hacks or hype, it's about mastering the architecture of strategic growth. So I help entrepreneurs to build what I call a structural advantage, a complete integrated ecosystem that makes success not just possible, but inevitable. I don't offer templates. I mean, I have templates within what I do, but I offer a transformation ultimately. And over the past 30 years, I've developed and refined a system that is unlike anything else that exists as far as I'm aware. It's been tested with hundreds of businesses. It's been, distilled into 230 books I've written, and now I'm turning each of those into expert level courses. And these strategies are not theoretical; they are practical, they're precise, they're proven in the real world. They're battle tested. I've seen businesses go from nothing to 100 million a year in 7 years. And
Wow.
then seeing the same person do it again a second time and things like this. Um, so and sometimes more than that. So they're very well tested, and collectively they have generated billions in additional revenue and counting. But the impact isn't measured just in the revenue; it's measured in the lives that are reclaimed, in the confidence that's restored, in the futures that are reimagined. We've just been talking about this, and so most entrepreneurs come to me burned out, or they're firefighting, or they're looking for a solution. They haven't found it. Some of them have looked for years, and I've had people say to me, I think I've tried everything out there. None of these things work for me." When I've said, "What do you want to take away from this?" at the beginning of something, and they've said to me something like that. So I'm just hoping that this is that I will get something from this, or they might come to me saying, "Well, if I can get one thing from this, it's worth it." And then they come to me at the end of it and they say, "This has completely changed my thinking." There's dozens of things we now know we can do. We know we can do them. We believe we can do them, and we're going to do them. It's going to happen, and because they believe it, it happens. Actually, that's a very important part of it as well, a psychological thing. So it's not just the revenue that they achieve. It's the confidence they get, the new horizons they form, the greater. One of my clients said to me, "It's raised my ambition level beyond anything I expected. I wanted to go from here to here." But you showed me that I could go way beyond that, and I did that. That was a company that went from 3 million to 63 million. And they sell iPads to schools, very, very competitive. If the schools will buy whoever will sell them the cheapest. We use some very simple strategies. They then became the number one Apple Premier retailer in the world. As a retail partner for Apple, but it was what happened to them. Their own belief was really important. So the point is, when you are firefighting all the time, you are reacting. You're not leading. You're not moving forwards. The pressure is constant. The chaos feels endless. They've lost the clarity they once had. Many people feel like they're like prisoners of the very business that they've created. And so my first job is really to help them step back, to zoom out, to see their business for what it truly is, to see a system then for putting that on the right path. And systems can be fixed, they can be strengthened and rebuilt to run powerfully and predictably. And that shift alone, seeing the whole picture, which I talked about earlier, this changes everything because now you're not just got the problem you now know that you need to fix, only to find out that before you can fix it, you need to put other things in place. This is what often happens. It's not going to work. This is why when people use consultants and coaches and agencies, they never, never, never get the result they expect. They never get it because there's always other things that have to be worked on before they can work on the problem because those things are missing. This is how it is. And so one of the biggest things is really understanding the picture. And when you understand the picture, you understand, okay, those foundations are important. They do need to go in. They make a big difference themselves. And then you can just go forwards from that point, always going forwards, not having to stop every few minutes because something is missing. And then, or a few hours or a few days or a few weeks, you don't have to keep stopping and starting. And sometimes people get fed up with the stopping and starting and they never get to the result they wanted. So it's really important that people see the whole picture because that changes everything. And that's something I kind of figured out years ago, and never understood why everybody else doesn't see it. But from there, we then begin the rewiring process. We identify where are the hidden bottlenecks, where are the inefficiencies. You need to rethink the market positioning. We refine the pricing, the messaging, the delivery models, the leadership approach, every layer of the business. It can't all be done at once, one thing at a time. But when you understand the whole thing, then you actually have probably a list in your mind of 100 things you know you need to do. You can only tackle the next one at a time, but you now can start to put them into some sort of sequence that is right for you. And we can start to tackle these things. And bit by bit, you can put all the right things in place. So it's not really just about fixing the problem that you immediately see right now. It's about creating momentum. And I teach people how to lead strategically at every level without burning out or losing control. Very, very simple. I say it's about the long-term perspective, but equally, I will give people much more information than they would ever expect, and that anyone else would than they can get anywhere else. So I will give them everything they need and more to be able to do the job. So let me just explain that a little bit. So you can go on a training course and you can think this training is absolutely fantastic. They tell you what to do. You now know what to do, and that's fantastic. And you can go away really feeling fantastic about it. But now you've got to do it. So how do you do it? And that's where it all falls down because you're stuck there. You know what to do, but you don't know how to do it. That is because someone's trying to sell you coaching or consulting or an agency services at very inflated prices, and they keep that bit back from you so that you're still dependent on them. They've now convinced you
Mhm.
to do it, but you don't know how to do it. So that's where you start spending a lot of money. Probably don't get the right results because you still don't have the end-to-end understanding. And so what I do is we not only give people what to do, we also explain exactly how to do it. So they get that bit of it. But we go further because I found that I was talk to people about the psychology of whatever it is we're talking about, the strategy we're talking about. And people really found that fascinating because this helps them to understand why it works and how it works in real human sort of situations. And then suddenly it's just fascinating for people when they start to see how that works. So that is included as part of it. We also go into what are the benefits of this, what are the disadvantages, what are the advantages, so that you actually understand properly where it fits in. There's a lot of people eager to sell you something. They'll only tell you the advantages. They won't tell you the disadvantages. We will talk about when it's right to do it, when it's not right to do it. What are the advantages? What are the disadvantages? What needs to be in place before this will work? A lot of people don't tell you these things. On top of that, we actually not only tell you what to do, but we also tell you what not to do. So, in other words, we identify for you what are all the common mistakes and pitfalls. Because if you know what they are, you can avoid them. If you don't
Mhm.
know what they are, it's too easy to make a mistake, to do something that is a common mistake or pitfall of some sort. And so, if you know what to do and what not to do, you can steer a path between them. We also go into the myths. So, in other words, we're in a world where there's a lot of fake news. It's very difficult to distinguish sometimes, especially if you're not very deeply immersed in a particular topic. How do you know if something that looks very convincing is actually the real deal or not? It's very difficult to
Mhm.
know that. So we try to give people all of what all the myths are around the particular topic we're looking at here, so that they can understand what are the myths and so they save themselves from going down the wrong path in the wrong direction for a lot of years potentially and costing them millions of pounds in lost income and making life more harder than it could be. And on top of that, we provide very in-depth case studies, which typically for every topic, every course, every book, I'd have maybe 25 to 50 of these case studies in each one, sometimes a bit more. They're all up to date. They're well-known companies from all over the world, and all the lessons that you can learn from it to apply to your business. Now, you won't apply every lesson from every case study, but those case studies, my clients tell me, really, really inspire them because now they can understand how something works. So, for example, just taking Airbnb as an example,
Hmm.
Airbnb is the largest hospitality company in the world, and it doesn't own a single property. That's
Yeah.
amazing for a start.
Amazing.
It's like Uber is the biggest taxi company in the world that doesn't own a single taxi, you
Mhm.
know. But how did that start? Well, it started because in San Francisco, where it started, the founders there was a shortage of hotel rooms for some very big event that was going on, and so they decided to put some airbeds up in their home in their apartment, and invite people to rent those airbeds from them, hence Airbnb. So it's airbed and breakfast. And
Right.
and then they thought, okay, this is very interesting. We could do this, extend this, make this go into much larger a thing. And just a phenomenal business, does billions a year in revenue. And so there's small beginnings that a lot of these things start from, but it's just you start there and then you suddenly start to see how things connect together, and it goes from there. But the transformation, basically, I would say that people will arrive with me and they may be doing 250,000, a million, 3 million, whatever. Then a few years they're doing 30 million, 60 million, 100 million or more. Not by luck. It's not luck that does it. It's by structure. It's through process. It's through a framework that works. And it's by me not letting them play smaller than their potential. Well, I expand their mind just by sharing these things with them. And the real transformation goes deeper than the numbers on a spreadsheet because I help them to reclaim their power. Look, I say to them, look, I give you all of this information. You have everything you need there and more than you ever need. If you wanted to go deep into each of these things, you could spend a year, 2 years implementing any one strategy. It will give you a good result. But there's a much better way. And the better way is this. I would say go through it quickly, get a quick view of the whole thing, of all of those different aspects, get a quick understanding, make some notes, by all means, do what you need to do. I then give them some very, very penetrating questions. Those questions help them to understand what they've just got, but also they're designed to consider how well they already do it. A lot of people say to me, I've heard about that or I tried that once. They tried it for 5 minutes. They didn't get a good result. They dropped it. Okay. So the questions help them to understand what they've read. The questions help them to identify quick wins. So what I am advocating is that you look all the time. You look for the quick wins. And I give you questions around each of these topics that actually helps you to identify the quick wins. So as you may not be able to answer them all. I'm not asking you to answer them all. I'm asking you to answer the ones that it's easy to answer. And from that, you will identify certain things that are actually going to make, and you'll make connections in your mind. You'll come up with ideas that you would never otherwise imagine. That suddenly you think, actually, this is really easy to do. This is going to have a really big impact. I could even get this done today. This is what a quick win is. I could get it done today. It's not going to cost me anything. It's going to make a big impact. What does that do? It gives you momentum. So I suggest you look for quick wins on top of quick wins on top of quick wins. You can always come back and go further into depth. And if you do that on any one of these things, it'll have a big impact on your business. And this is how we got the results we got. It's by identifying the quick wins, building the momentum, go back further into depth at a later time when you need to, when your business is 5 times the size it is and you can afford people to then implement these things in much more depth, then go back and do it then. But the transformation isn't just the numbers on a spreadsheet. I really help people to reclaim their power, the internal power that gets lost when you're running too fast for too long. Burnt out in another way of saying it. I help them to reconnect to their vision, or if they don't have the vision, they will often get it just by interacting with others that are mentoring at the same time. I found this happened a lot, and they inspire each other. I'll give you a quick example. I had in one particular group, I used to meet with different entrepreneurs in groups of about 20 or 25, 4 times a year in for a 24-hour retreat in luxury sort of hotels with golf and spa and things like this, nice catering. And we would meet for 24 hours, have an intensive session. And people in there, for example, one guy, we said, look, you've done estate agent. He was so good at what he did that we believed he should enter the awards in his industry. He'd never done it before. He came to us because he said, I'm good at what I do, but I'm not good at communicating it. It's a common problem. And anyway, we helped him do some stuff which was really good. And we thought he should enter the Sunday Times Estate Agent of the Year award. He said, I've never entered an award before. So within the community, within the group, he says, I'm thinking about doing this. And, what do you think to the other people? And some of them thought, not sure, maybe you should. Some said, go for it. Others said, don't know, what good is it going to do, etc. Anyway, he had a bit of a debate. He decided he was going to do it. We helped him put together his entry, and the next time we all met, we thought this is so good. We're going to show it to everybody. We showed it to everybody. Everybody was blown away by it, and they're thinking, "Oh my goodness, this is fantastic. He's probably in with a chance." And we thought he was in with a chance. Anyway, he then came to the award itself, and he went to London for the awards, and on the train on the way back, he called me and he said, guess what we've done. I said, well, I think you probably could have got silver, bronze, or bronze, silver, or gold regionally at least, possibly even a national award. He said we did get gold for our region, so we were the best estate agent in our entire region. We also got best estate agent in the whole country, first attempt, gold, the Sunday Times National Estate Agent of the Year at the first
Wow.
attempt. Now, when he came back to the group, and then they all wanted to know what had happened. So this then
Mm.
started to spread. Of course, the next thing is they're thinking, oh my goodness. And then it had a big impact on his business. And then they're thinking, well, we can do that too. And so you get inspired by what others are doing
Yeah,
as part of this.
yeah.
And so a lot of them did, and a lot of them did win the top awards in their industry year after year. And then it became like a room full of award winners
Mm.
every time we would meet. And so this is the point. You kind of got to it kind of happens as a process. So this is about reclaiming that internal power that you have. So you reconnect to your vision, you refine your identity as a leader, you rebuild your confidence. It's not the performative kind, but it's the quiet, earned confidence that comes from knowing that you're building something on solid ground. And most importantly, I help people take back control of their time, their energy, their culture, their future. That is what changes everything. Because when leaders change everything, then everything around them will begin to shift. Their teams will rise, their families will feel the difference. Their businesses stop reacting, they start scaling. The fog lifts, the stress lifts. Life becomes lighter, not because the work disappears, but because now it makes sense. You know what to do. You can just travel down that path, and you can eliminate lots of the distractions and things that
Mm.
that sort of hold you back. And I've seen entrepreneurs reconnect with their children, restore their marriages, regain their health because they finally stopped living in a reactive survival mode. They started leading with intention, calm, clear, composed, and purpose driven. And that ripple effect then spreads. Stronger leaders build stronger teams build better businesses uplift families and transform communities and inspire entire industries to raise their standards. That's why I do this. And because when we get the leader right, the business follows. And when we get the business right, we change lives, not just in the boardroom, but at dinner tables, in classrooms, in conversations that never make the headlines. And this is how transformation really happens quietly, systematically, and powerfully. And that is the impact that I live for.
Wonderful. I mean, it's surely inspiring what you've done because you've got the rare ability of having the vision as well as giving people know-how and most importantly, belief. Because a lot of people may believe that they can do it, but not sure how. And then because they don't know how, they don't start. And I always say
Yeah.
the longest journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step. A lot of people
Yes,
won't
it
take the
does.
first step unless they know that how they're going to get. And that's not always revealed to you at the beginning of your journey. So amazing. The fact that you've had such testimonies of people getting awards and distinction and honors because of the impact of the work you've done. You've obviously raised a lot of people's
And the
businesses.
interesting thing is, once we recognized that awards was a very good thing. Now, there's two types of awards, by the way, just to differentiate here. There's
Mm.
awards that you pay to enter, they're not worth anything. There's companies who will sort of scam you to get you to pay for whatever, and you go along to and you're given an award because you've paid for it. That is not the same as where you have won it on merit. The ones you've won it on, a restaurant that says, we make the best steak in Birmingham, and we've won this award that they have paid to enter doesn't mean a damn thing. But if Michelin Guide comes along and they do an assessment of you, it's an independent body that
Hmm.
actually will only make that award to people that meet the highest standards. That is different. So there is a difference between the two. There's an award winner where it's meaningless, and there's an award winner really means something. And if you could go to a rib shack in Texas and it has a Michelin star, you know those are going to be really good ribs. Or you could go to street food place in Singapore and have something just a little stall, but it's brilliant at what it does. You know that means something. It's not nothing. It's something that really is worthwhile. Those sort of things are fantastic for your credibility for everything else. But the thing about that is you then start raising your profile. Suddenly you become very visible. And suddenly this is how these businesses were getting 8 and 9 figure offers for their business because they've obviously got a good business, somebody wanting a foothold in that market or to get in there more quickly. They've got millions to splash around. They will often then buy those businesses. So this is, we saw the whole spectrum from many cases from startup right the way through to 8 or 9 figure exits because they're profiled raised, they're obviously doing really good things.
Hmm.
Uh, and it's not hard. By the way, it takes about an hour a day. I say put an hour a day into what you need to do with this and look for the quick wins in that hour and then implement those immediately. And this is how you can do it. It doesn't take more than that. It doesn't take over your life.
Excellent. Okay. And that's been very inspiring, the fact you've got so much evidence of the impact. The last question I do ask you is envision a world where you have the influence to make significant changes. What would be the defining characteristics of that transformed reality?
I'm not sure if I can answer it exactly in those terms, but I'll answer it another way. Two things that I am very passionate about. I absolutely detest the fact that entire populations are downtrodden within their world. It's really unfair. It's unnecessary. I think when I think of this, I'm thinking of somewhere like Russia, for example, massive country, biggest country in land area in the world. Um, and what they've done over generations is they've conquered more and more land. They have suppressed the people that were living there. You know, Siberia is a big place. It hasn't got a massive population for the size of it, but nothing close to it. It probably never had a massive population. But you've seen the same thing happen in North America. You know, the Europeans came and they suppressed all the indigenous peoples. And, you know, it's just absolutely horrendous to me that they wipe out entire, um, communities,
Mm,
societies. It's absolutely tremendous. You know, sorry, absolutely horrendous, not tremendous, horrendous.
mm,
Um, that this would happen. You had the same thing with colonialism. You know, they had really good tribal systems that functioned very successfully all over Africa that were devastated, destroyed. You know, it's a sort of trail of destruction. I feel really sorry for that. Some of this, thank God, is still there, but some of these things have been wiped out. So I feel that there are so many groups around the world that need to have their own identity. They need to be who they are. They need to get back to where they are living on their terms. They're not just used as cannon fodder by the Russians, you know, in their wars or things like this. They're not decimated. So I believe very strongly in this. I would, if I had the means to do it, I would be helping people like that in those sort of situations to find themselves again where that isn't there, to be able to be proud, to not have all of their riches robbed from them, and then left with nothing, and then just treated as third-rate people when they're not. They all have their own traditions. They all have something amazing about them.
mhm.
That is something that I'm very passionate about, and I'm probably not expressing it very well. The other thing, about this question is I want to just talk a little bit about politics because I think there's a better way. You know, people are very disenchanted with politicians all over the world. And so I do have some views on this, which I think are worth stating because I believe that politics should be a force for truth and service and meaningful progress. It's not about theatre or tribalism or manipulation. We live in a time when political discourse has become increasingly polarized. We see this all over the world. There's places in the world we don't even want to go because people are so polarized. You don't want to upset the wrong people,
Mm,
things like this. So it just gets crazy. It becomes very ugly, where the party line often overrides conscience, where opposition exists more for the sake of contradiction than of constructive improvement. What's wrong with constructive improvement? In such an environment, politics then loses its moral core. Leaders become actors, debates become sound bites, and the public trust erodes. We see it all over the world. And what I want instead is I want a simple but profound return to authenticity. Very, very important to me. Conscience-fed leadership, respectful debate, and systems that work. Because if everybody pulls together, you might have different views, and that's fine. But then you can find a consensus in doing that.
mhm,
You don't have to be playing games everywhere. And so for me, it's conscious over conformity. Um, and this to me, when you come across conviction politicians, there are some, thank God, but they're not many. But they stand out because they have a conviction. They might have a completely different view to me on something, but if they really believe in it strongly enough, I can respect that totally. I can respect their point of view, even if I don't agree with it, because it is their conviction. I think that's very important.
mhm.
So, so do you want to say something there, Anthony?
No, no, no. Go on, go on.
Um, so I think these are the rare individuals who are not afraid to vote and speak according to their own moral compass, even if it costs them politically. They're not interested in towing the party line. They're not interested in playing to the base. They're interested in doing what is right, not what is easy. And I think this is important. And we don't have enough of those sort of people. And whether I agree or not with their views, I have enormous admiration for any leaders who think for themselves, who act sincerely, and they serve from a place of principle in a world of political performance. Then conviction is a form of courage. And so, examples of this, pick out a few. A classic example in this country, in the UK, is Tony Benn, who he's obviously
Hmm.
passed away a few years ago now. But he was someone I wouldn't necessarily have agreed with politically, but um, I totally respected him because he had conviction. He consistently placed conscience above party pressure. He remained unafraid to challenge his own colleagues when he believed they'd lost their way. And whether you agreed with him or not, his integrity, because this is what it's about integrity and consistency, earned him lasting respect. And you think about other people, on the other side of the political spectrum in the UK, there was Ken Clarke. He was a lifelong conservative. He stood firm against Brexit extremism. Now, you may be in favour of Brexit, you may not be. Most people are not now, but he was not in favour of it, and he was eventually expelled from his own party for placing country above party. He's one of the few modern politicians who demonstrated consistent, pragmatic integrity throughout his career. Then you've got people like in the United States, you've got Bernie Sanders. You imagine being a socialist in a country where socialism is equated with the worst of communism, and that's how most people thought about it. But he's stuck to his guns. He's now getting massive, massive, massive crowds because people's eyes are being opened by what's happening right now in the US, and a lot of people are not going to have it anymore. And what he's saying now makes sense to them. They're ready to hear it. His views might be polarizing, but no one can accuse him of inconsistency. He's been saying the same things for over 4 decades, not for effect, but because they represent his core beliefs. If he had his way, they would have systems, health systems, things like that, similar to Denmark, social systems like Denmark in the United States. That's what he's trying to go for. That was always alien to them, but people are now ready to listen to that. And so he was a man of integrity. Lee Kuan Yew, who was the first prime minister of Singapore, and it became independent. Very, very visionary guy, and I'll just say a little bit more about him because to me, he is what a politician should be. We don't have enough of these because among all the political figures I admire the most, Lee Kuan Yew is the towering example of a principled vision, what principled visionary leadership can achieve. Because when it is grounded in moral clarity and ruthless pragmatism and a genuine commitment to the public good, then good things happen. And as the founding Prime Minister of Singapore, he led the country from colonial obscurity, where it's just a little island with no water and only some people on it, and that was all they had to work with. And he's turned it into what it is now. It's become one of the world's most advanced and admired societies. And it was not by pandering to voters in this case, but it was by setting a bold, clear course and sticking to it for decades. He governed not by chasing opinion polls, but by shaping outcomes. And what sets him apart is that he never sought popularity for its own sake. He didn't soften hard truths. He didn't avoid unpopular decisions. He spoke candidly about these things. If there was a problem, he would acknowledge it and say, "Right, we've got to try and figure out a way together to get through this." And sometimes these would be very uncomfortable things for people to hear. He talked about the importance of values, about discipline, about meritocracy, about education, about planning. And despite accusation of authoritarianism, his rule was guided by a sincere belief that everything the government did had to serve the people. That's what they've done. That's why they're so successful. And he once said, "I'm not saying that everything I did was right, but everything I did was for an honourable purpose." And I wish politicians did that. I think we all wish they would do that.
Hmm.
And it is this fusion of purpose and principle that made him exceptional and that resonates deeply within me. And under his leadership, Singapore became a place where long-term planning replaced short-term populism. We're in a democratic system, so called,
Hmm.
where you know government changes in 5 years, and they reverse the policies of the one that's just gone. So they've just gone and undone everything's been done over the next 5 years. They go and do the same thing. They go and do the same. They make their own changes, then those are undone. That does not make forward progress. That makes stagnation. It's very rare for that to make forward progress, and everybody's singing from the same song sheet. So what Singapore had was long-term planning instead of short-term populism. Too much short-term populism in the world. Meritocracy replaced nepotism. You can do anything in Singapore if you can demonstrate that you can do it. You have the opportunity to do it. Civic responsibility replaced political theatre. Public trust in government was earned and it was sustained through competence and results. We can all learn from that. So Lee Kuan Yew is one of my political heroes because he didn't just transform a city state. He proved that politics can work and it can be efficient and it can deliver something that lifts everybody, and it can be strategic, moral, and effective all at once. That's what he did, and I admire him immensely for that. And I can speak about it because I have lived there. Um, you could say Vladimir Zelensky is another of these people. He's a conviction politician forged by crisis. Look at how he is seen in the world. He is revered because of the way he's done everything with integrity, in very, very challenging circumstances. Nobody thought he'd last 5 minutes. Look at where he is now. People just dismissed him as a celebrity turned populist, a former comedian running on charisma rather than substance. But in the whole tough crucible of war, he's revealed his true nature, a leader of deep principle, moral courage, and authentic public service. And I could say a lot about him, and we all know about him. And that people, when leaders like that give us hope, they remind us that politics can still be honourable. It can be rooted in values. It can be fueled by service rather than ambition. There's other names, and I won't go into any depth on this. Jomo Kenyatta, who I've lived in Kenya, he was the first president of Kenya when it became independent. Nobody thought he would turn out to be as good as he was, but he was principled. He did some really great things. He was the architect of really a very successful nation. Nelson Mandela, well, obviously everybody knows about Nelson Mandela. Lula da Silva in Brazil in his first term, empathy and action for the marginalized people. Paul Kagame in Rwanda is turning Rwanda, which was not so long ago was in a very
Hmm.
very civil war, into a country that is now being called the Singapore of Africa. Now it is authoritarianism to some degree. It's a benevolent dictatorship, but they're raising everybody there, and there are certain things they're doing that are questionable. But nonetheless, he's done something that nobody could have ever imagined. The guy there's Juho Kusti Paasikivi, who was the one of the prime ministers or presidents of Finland going back years ago, is a fantastic guy. Um, I think people with great integrity, Guy Verhofstadt, who was Europe's leading federalist. When you see the way he was negotiating, his passion and everything else, fantastic. Michel Barnier, who was negotiating the Brexit exit as well. You think, why can't we have people that have that kind of integrity? They had a lot of integrity. People like that impress me, and it gives me hope. So there is hope there, and it can be honourable, it can be rooted in values, it can be fueled by service. I'd love to see that. So then it takes me on to party politics. So what do I think about that? I find that party politics rings a little hollow with me because political parties demand obedience over authenticity. MPs and representatives are forced to toe the line, even if it contradicts their personal views or the interests of those people they represent. Dissent is punished. It is not welcomed, and debate becomes warfare. It's not collaboration. They could collaborate. Why? Why go into warfare? So this form of tribal politics, basically, to me, leads to deadlock and division. We see this all the time, and it leads to a climate where truth becomes secondary to winning. All they want to do is win. That truth doesn't matter. And I won't even talk about the biggest examples of that in the world at the moment. It rewards loyalty over wisdom, repetition over reflection, and it's often I've often imagined a better model is one where it's a non-partisan democracy, where you elect an individual based on your belief and trust in that person to represent your beliefs, to actually be true to themselves, because that's what you want them to be if you've elected them. I believe in you, and I believe in you to represent me and to stay true to your values that I believe in. Isn't that a better way? I don't think anywhere does this. But if people are elected based on this trust and integrity, not allegiance to a brand or a political party, a system where politicians can then are free to vote according to their conscience, isn't that actually democracy? Much more than we're getting, where they're judged not by how obedient they are to their political party, but how open-minded they are, how fair they are, and how thoughtful they are. And surely that's a better way. But I don't see anybody doing that. And if you have to have a compromise with political parties, I actually prefer a coalition than a straight political party, this flavour or that flavour. Because if I have to have political parties, I prefer coalition governments because not as a compromise, but as a check against extremism. And I think that's really important because at the extremes of politics, left or right, it's very ugly. And in coalitions, fringe ideologies are tempered. No single party can dominate unchecked. Policies must be negotiated, they must be refined, they must be built around consensus. Coalitions discourage the dangerous drift towards an ideological extremes. We are seeing this happening in certain parts of the world that I'm not going to name right now, but we're all aware of it. Whether it's the left or the right. They require dialogue, they require balance, they require pragmatism. All of these are qualities that serve society better than partisan absolutism, I should say. And this model then really ensures that the interests of the majority are not hijacked by the loudest minority, and it fosters maturity in political discourse, and it encourages systems that serve the people and agendas, because most people are, dislike politics because they are not being served by it.
Mhm.
And so this needs to change, in my view. And so if I go back to three examples that I've experienced that do deliver this, in my view, and that is Singapore, China, and Switzerland. And I've lived in Switzerland, I've lived in Singapore. I haven't lived in China, but I've seen it. So while politicians matter, what matters more is the systems that they operate within. And I've observed with great interest and admiration three very different countries that have consistently delivered extraordinary results for the people in those countries. And that is Singapore, China, and Switzerland. And despite their differences, and they are different, many, many differences, and so in some ways even opposites, they all share something that is vital, and that they all share the ability to plan for the long term. They're all thinking in 100-year terms, not in, you know, 3 years and then the next 2 years spent on trying to win the next election. It's not, they don't do that. They're planning for the long term because they can. They implement with precision and to prioritize the societal and well-being above all the short-term party interests. And that is why they've made great progress in the world, one of the reasons. If we take Singapore, for instance, Singapore is a one-party state in all but name. The People's Action Party, which is the ruling party, has been in power since independence. It's never been out of power. They have 90% of the seats in parliament or thereabouts, and they've held that for decades. There are other political parties, but they have 90% of it. And people keep voting them in, genuinely. It's not like in Belarus where
Mhm.
got fake elections and
Mhm.
things like that. And yet, but they do not decline into dysfunction. Singapore has become one of the world's most advanced and livable countries, one of the nicest places in the world to live. It is in many ways, it is a benevolent dictatorship, but I stress the word benevolent. But it's one driven by competence, by meritocracy, by an unwavering commitment to public service, to education, to health, to infrastructure. All of these things are, some of the best in the world. To innovation, all of these things are world class. And because of the continuity of the leadership, in other words, they're not changing every 5 minutes and reversing each other's things, that continuity of leadership, they have been able to plan in 20-year, and 50-year, and 100-year cycles without policies being overturned by political swings. And I think this is really important. This is how they can make great progress that they have done. And you might think, well, okay, they have very strict rules. Yes, they do. But those rules are only designed to make society very pleasant for people to live in. I used to joke living there that if you parked your car so that the shadow of the bumper fell over the yellow line, that you'd be fined. And that was almost true. So there are rules you have to observe, but actually they are small in comparison to all the benefits you get in a society that can just keep moving forward, where there's a massive cohesion between people from all over the world who live together very, very comfortably, and you've got some of the best standards in the world of everything you could have there. It's a real eye opener. So go there, experience it if you haven't done, and you'll see that there is very little dissent. Okay, if you're a drug dealer, there's a death sentence. You don't do that in Singapore, but it makes the
Mm.
streets safe for people. Okay, and so there's certain boundaries you don't cross, but there's very little reason for most people to ever have a disagreement with the government. You don't disagree with the government when you're there, but there's no reason to, because everything they do is to uplift everybody there. So because and when it's like that, there's very little public dissent because you've got a really well-functioning society. People do not feel the need to rebel. There's nothing to rebel against. That is the point I'm trying to make, because they use these principles I've been talking about here. Another one which surprises a lot of people is China.
Mm.
You listen to all the what the Western media says, and they're trying to say, well, it's communist, it's this, it's that. It's nothing like totalitarian. Yes, it's got a lot of surveillance, but there's reasons for that, which is to keep everybody safe. China is criticized for lack of freedoms. If you go there, I promise you'll probably feel freer than you've ever felt anywhere. But you don't know that until you go there, if you just listen to the media. So it's criticized for those lack of freedoms, but very few people acknowledge what is achieved under its centralized model. What they've done in recent years is they took what worked in Singapore and they've now tried to apply it on a vast scale, on an
Right.
unimaginable scale. And so in just a few decades, they've lifted hundreds of millions of people out of poverty. They literally were out of they had bicycles, that was their transport, and they were in poverty. They've lifted them out of poverty. Today, salaries are, the cost of renting a place in somewhere like Shanghai is probably higher than London. I mean,
Really?
that's saying a lot.
Wow.
I mean, it's not what it was. They've
Mm.
done this by using the same principle I'm talking about here to a large degree. They've built the world's most advanced high-speed rail network. They've created some of the cleanest, most beautiful airports anywhere in the world. They've delivered infrastructure at a pace the West can hardly comprehend. It took in Germany more than 30 years to build the new airport in Berlin, and it went 7 billion euros to build the one airport. China made a decision to build 200 airports, and in 3 years from the day they made the decision, 3 to 4 years, all those 200 airports were open, and they are beautiful. They're like nothing else you've ever seen. They're the best in the world. The one in Singapore is probably better, but they are up with the best in the world. And they did all 200 within 3 to 4 years. Absolutely unbelievable. But this is what they are doing. They're creating an incredible facilities, incredible lifestyle for people. Um, so Berlin Airport becomes an international embarrassment because of all of the bureaucracy within Germany, which is unbelievable. And meanwhile, China builds with speed, precision, and vision. And these are not just temporary fixes; these are lasting world-class structures. You go there and you're thinking, "Oh my God, they are 20 years ahead of us. They're 50 years ahead of us." You don't know till you go, and you can do anything you want pretty much, except steal things. If you steal things, you'll be caught in 5 minutes. And
They've got
but
amazing bridges as well in China. I've seen some
sorry.
amazing construct bridges in high
Yeah,
terrain.
absolutely. The roads are amazing. I mean, they are fantastic roads, not like the roads we have here full of potholes. They are fantastic condition. They're amazing. It's just so amazing what they've got. The trains, you don't even hear the rumble. It's just goes
Hmm.
300 kilometers an hour, in some cases. So all of this infrastructure is amazing. Then also what people don't understand, minimal bureaucracy. going there, minimal, there's minimum requirements. You can go there as a visitor with minimal requirements, easy to get a visa. You can see it all. There's minimal bureaucracy if you want to start a business. They make it easy to start a business. They make it easy to get hold of money to fund your business. They make it easy to do everything. They make it easy to buy things. You don't even need to use your credit cards or debit cards to buy. You just do a quick scan of a QR code which relates to the shop, put and enter the amount that's paid, and done in a second for everything pretty much. So they don't use money in the way that we do. Everything is done to make it very easy. People who once they experience it think, "Oh my God, why is it so complicated?" At our end, they make it very comfortable and easy. And so they're doing these things at unimaginable scale, and the execution of these things, the decisions are made really rapidly. The execution is relentless. The public, as a result, gets increasing prosperity, safety, and stability. And if you don't believe me, go there. Try it out, and you will be shocked at how amazing it is in comparison to what we've got here. They've done that because, again, they are just going forwards all the time, forwards, forwards, forwards. They don't ever need to look backwards. And okay, certain things might have a little bit of a short-term hit on them, but they've got something that they're doing things in a very, very helpful way if you happen to be a citizen. So then let's talk about Switzerland, which is different. It's the opposite in some ways, but it has some of the same good characteristics. So, maybe the opposite end of the spectrum is arguably the only true democracy in the world. And I'm very fortunate to have lived there from time to time as well. Power in Switzerland is completely different. It's not the center that holds the power, but it's the local community you live in. That local
Hmm.
community makes all the decisions around that community. And then it goes to the canton, which is sort of the next level up. And then that goes into the federation, the central government, which actually don't have to do much because the job is done at local level. And all the power is in the local level. Citizens then vote regularly on policies via referendum. If the central government, let's say the federation, makes a law that enough people disagree with, if you get a certain number of signatures, you can trigger a referendum, and then everybody's very well informed about everything in Switzerland because they have quite a few referendums. Um, the disadvantage of it is, compared to say China or Singapore, where decisions can be instant and they can act on it immediately, it takes time to make decisions in Switzerland because a lot of people need to agree with it. But once they make the decision, those decisions are implemented and they are respected. And there is no backtracking, there's no endless political quarreling. And like Singapore and China, Switzerland is a place where things just work. Everything works. They've thought of everything. Everything you could think of that could go wrong, they've already thought about it and they've got answers to it in all of those countries, in fact. And so Switzerland combines deliberation with delivery and democracy with discipline. And it shows that even in a highly democratic system, more democratic than anywhere, I'd argue, long-term planning and societal unity are possible. I would like to see a world where we all can experience the benefits of this, and there's no reason why we can't. Even at the opposite ends of the spectrum politically, they can make that work when it's done with the people in mind, with everybody being lifted in mind. So, what I believe is that across these examples and throughout all of my reflections on this, my political philosophy is really grounded in a few core beliefs. And this is what I would like to see if I had the opportunity, I would like to see the world do is number one, to be about authenticity. Authenticity in politics matters more than party allegiance, I believe. Conscious-led leadership, I think, is important. I think it's essential for moral clarity. Systems should deliver real, measurable outcomes that improve people's lives. Coalition and collaboration are safeguards against extremism.
Hmm.
Respectful debate and open-mindedness are vital in a pluralistic society. And trust between citizen and government, which we don't have in so many countries in the world anymore, but that trust between citizen and government, this is the foundation of a thriving nation. Guess what? In Switzerland, they trust their government. In Singapore, they trust their government. In China, they trust their government, believe it or not, despite what you might hear. They mostly trust their government. Yeah, there are some things, there are some boundaries you don't cross, but actually it's for the benefit of society, not to the detriment in most cases. And so the way I would describe my political outlook is that there's no one label that fits my views. But the closest it aligns to is that you might call me a radical centrist because I value balance and evidence and ideas from across the spectrum. You could say that I'm a principled pragmatist because I believe in conscience and results in equal measure. You could say that I'm post-partisan because I've moved beyond tribal loyalty, political party. They've never held much attraction for me. To value depth where to value truth rather wherever it lives. And I could say depth as well, because I think that's really important. And you could say that I'm a deliberative Democrat because I believe in thoughtful, respectful public decision making, which, I think was there at some times in the past, but has gone in a lot of cases. And this is why we have a distrust of politics. And so I would sum it up by saying it's politics with purpose. So I want politics to be what it was always meant to be, and that is to be a service to others, a service to the people that you're serving, not a path to power. Some people are in politics only as a path to power. They are not there to serve others. And I want leaders who listen, systems that work, policies that endure, and a political culture that fosters wisdom over war, collaboration over conquest, and truth over tactics. And whether that's through democracy or centralization, coalition or consensus, I believe if we build systems around integrity and competence in public service, then we can create a world where everybody rises together. And I think that's what this is what it should be about. And so if I had a way to influence these things, and I had the means, this is what I would want as the outcome. And that is the politics that I stand for. I'm not alone in that. Maybe, it took me a little while just to think it through, to actually articulate it, because I kind of had this idea in my head for 20 years, 30 years, but
Mhm.
never um, had never really expressed it. But to me, this is what we should be aiming for. As the world changes, this is where I hope it's going to change and go in that direction. Because then we all can benefit. We can all work together. We can all work as one in our different ways, which is what we really should be doing. Because we can accomplish much more if we do, and if we just keep moving forward, not having to go backwards and forwards all the time and stopping and starting. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, and I think in many ways we get the politicians that we deserve. I think there's a high degree of apathy and frustration, and people not holding politicians to account in a certain way to get rid of the ones that are not performing and bring in people who have, because I think there are some good politicians, but there are a lot of bad ones as
Yeah.
well. There's a lot of bad ones as well. And then we're seeing from what's happening from the Twitter files, there's a lot of things happening behind the scenes which are controlling politicians as well. Sometimes they're just
Yes.
puppets for other bigger fish behind the scenes that are pulling their strings. So think it was I think was it Elon Musk, or it might have been Robert Kelly said what they should do, they should wear the T-shirt of the team that's sponsoring them, because then we'd know where they're coming from. I think that's the biggest problem with politicians, that they're not being
Well, they're bought.
themselves.
They're bought. They're not. It's exactly the opposite of what I'm saying there. They are bought by other people,
Yeah,
and there's
but we as the
no.
people have to demand and remove those who are not doing our will. But a lot of people are so frustrated with politicians that they just disengage. They just think they're all just bad. And
Yeah, I quite agree, and you can understand why. I can totally understand why, and so then it comes back to the question, um, which is I've forgotten exactly how it was phrased now, but really it's about what would I do, if I could, to sort of
to make
change
significant
things.
changes that would be defining characteristics of that
Yeah,
transformed
I, I
reality.
I would
Well,
I would lend my voice to, I mean, we're going through a massive change in the world order right now.
mhm.
This is coming for a long time, and now it's happening with a vengeance. And there's never been more. Well, I say never been more chaos than there's been for a long, long time around the world, and it's not going to get better soon. But it has to do that for a new world order to emerge. And I hope this new world order, is one that is built on authenticity and conscious leadership and respectful debate and systems that work respect for each other. You know, so many problems are caused by disrespect for no reason whatsoever. Just ignorance. If we could have something that, even at opposite ends of the political spectrum, it's possible to accomplish it, which I've just explained by giving the examples of, say, Switzerland on the one hand, China and Singapore on another.
Mhm.
And they're all fantastic places to live.
Well, you've kind of motivated me to go. Well, I certainly want to go to Singapore. That was on my bucket list. I'll
Well, do
probably,
that first, then go to China.
yeah, I'll go Singapore first. I've heard so many
Prioritize
good
it.
things about Singapore. I'd love to go there.
Singapore is expensive,
Yeah.
um, very expensive, like Switzerland. But these are the best places. They are expensive because they've lifted everyone in their whole community. You know, do you know how much, let's say, something like equivalent of a Volkswagen Golf would cost in Singapore?
No, 20,000.
No. You have to pay about 150,000 just to get a permit to own a car,
Wow.
and then the car itself is about 100 grand.
But it's a small place, isn't it? It's not,
Yeah, yeah, and that's how they
land is
that's
expensive.
how they keep the roads moving so that it's not overcrowded with cars. It's not one big traffic jam with 6 million people
Oh, I
on.
see.
So
Okay.
so it limits the number, but then they compensate for that because they've got absolutely amazing public transport. And the metro system, the underground system, I've forgotten the
Hmm.
name for it now. The is fantastic. It's absolutely clean everywhere. It's really reliable, and it costs peanuts. You pay like this is not maybe not exactly right, but maybe about £1 you can go anywhere. So
Mm.
got absolutely fantastic public transport, very clean, very fast, very reliable. So you actually don't need a car most of the time. If you need one, they
Right.
keep they have a thing called ARF and PARF. So if you've got a car you're trading in, if you hand it in for scrap, you'll get a lower price on the car you're buying. So then it will reduce the price. But if you're going to keep an extra car on the road, you're going to pay the full extra amount. But it's all to but they also have, just talking about things like that, every building they build, every public building, every shopping centre, they have to build an underground car park with it. You can park easily. You can park easily anywhere in a small island with 6 million people on it because of the way that they have thought about things way ahead of time. It's just really fantastic. Now China's doing that on an absolutely massive scale. But let's just illustrate some of the things there. But
Hmm.
equally, food there is cheaper to eat out some of the best food in the world, probably is the best food in the world, cheaper to eat out than just to buy the groceries and make it yourself. And it's absolutely fantastic. So certain things are very, very inexpensive, like food, really good standard, public transport, really high standard. Um, if you want to buy an apartment, well, you may pay a few million
Hmm.
for it.
Okay. Well, before we go, I'd just like to thank you so much for your time and your thoughts. Could you just give us an idea of how we could get contact with you if we want to contact you?
Right. Let's think of the best ways. The best ways is if my email. Do you think is it worth giving out my email here?
Well, I can add it in the notes when I post the video.
If I email that across to you. So best way is you can connect with me on LinkedIn,
Hmm.
Robert Clay. So it's linkedin.com/in/, Robert Clay, all one word. You can connect with me on LinkedIn.
Hmm.
You can email me and I'll send you the email for that. You can go straight to the community I've set up, which we haven't really started driving big numbers of people into at the moment. We're populating it at the moment with all of these courses, and the I'll just give you and I'll send you this on email as
Yeah,
well.
send me the community link.
And what you can do there, you can just go with a 7-day free trial. You can contact me directly within the community, and we can send me a private message, and you can introduce yourself there as well. And it's called the 6 to 8% Growth Club because the 6 to 8% growth that our average client was doing when we did the audit, and it's on. But I'll send the link for that so you can.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much.
And also we have a perhaps I should mention that we have a very interesting um, offer for anybody on this. If I'm just going to remind myself of, if I can
You
remember where I
mean for
put it.
your courses?
Yes. So let me get this quickly. So I'm just looking at my phone here. Okay. So yeah. So we have a really interesting um, offer for anybody who's interested in what I've talked about. Um, So basically, it works like this. If you want to join the community, you get a
Hmm.
7 day free trial. So when you go on the page, you'll see that. And after that, you pay $99 a month as a membership fee. You can cancel it at any time. But if you refer just three other people, you effectively will get free membership for life. That will then give you access to the entire body of work. There's 230 different courses that I've created. And we have what we call this an introduce three, get yours free type membership. So, that helps us and it helps you. The second thing is you'll get immediate access to a free book I've written, which is called the 6 to 8% growth formula. Plus, you also get immediate free access to a mini course that unlocks marketing secrets behind multi-million pound success stories that you can just start. You can log in, you can go in on the free trial, and 5 minutes later you can be actually doing that course. That alone will open your eyes and really help you. Your membership will then give you access to the largest and the most up-to-date body of work that exists in the business growth and marketing world. It's not all in there yet. It's going to take us 2 or 3 years to fully populate it, but it's got quite a lot of it in there, plenty to keep you very busy for a while. And you'll eventually be able to access 230 expert level courses. Those courses were only previously available to my VIP mentoring clients who they were paying 15 to 30,000 pounds a year to get access to that information. You'll get it for $99 a month or free, like I said. And those courses have turned many businesses into niche leaders, top industry award winners, and many 8 to 9 figure exits. Any of the expert level courses, they would normally sell for £5,000 a piece. Some of the top universities would sell that for 10 or 15,000, sorry, dollars a piece. So any $5,000 expert level course, you can unlock it for a one-time payment of $180, or you can get it completely free by referring five others. And you can repeat that process as often as you like. There's no limits on your access to those courses. But here's another thing. You will also earn for anybody you introduce, you will get 40% for life of all of the of a lifetime commission on every person that you refer, every successful referring, including on the ones that you use to unlock courses. And that 40% is then split automatically when people pay the monthly memberships paid. It's automatically split. 40% automatically goes to you, and it goes straight into your account. And then all the earnings and referrals and the payout balances are tracked in real time. You can see how much you've earned this month, how much you've earned in total, how much you've earned from each person, who they are, where their standing is. The whole lot is there. It's all built in to the platform that we have, and it's on your personal dashboard. And you can just trigger a payout anytime. You just click the button once, go straight to your bank account. 14 days after someone has actually after each transaction with a single click, and then unlocking. If you just unlock one of the expert level courses we have in the community by referring, say, five other members, then that's going to pay you $2,376 a year in recurring income. If you did unlocked eight over a year, which somebody might do over a course of a year, that will grow to nearly $20,000, and that'll be coming in next year plus the ones you've unlocked then, and it goes on like that.
Wow. Amazing. Thank you very
So
much. I
that's
feel
what
like I've
we
been on a university course today. The level of information that you provided today, it's been a high level. We were honored to have you on board as a collaborator in our book. And thank you very much. Once a book is written, I'm sure it's going to have a massive impact on people's lives, having people like yourself on board.
Well, it's my voice and others, and I think if there's enough voices out there that can help, then it will help. It'll start to build up, and I hope that people get something from what I've said and from what other people said.
Okay, I'll stop the recording now.